I was a little bit disappointed, I suppose. I have been a guitarist playing predominantly rock and metal music for almost the last 20 years now, and the more I get into the synth market, the synth world, the more I realise that that world, much like the pedal market in the kind of guitar realm, is a really special place. You see it kind of everywhere, where these eventually, in kind of any given chosen industry, things kind of tend to morph together and blend together as people innovate upon each other into this kind of big amorphous pale blob. Whereas in the pedal market, or indeed the synth market, you see lots of these teeny tiny companies sprouting up and flying their own flag and doing their own thing and bringing something genuinely new and exciting to the table. And that's kind of awesome. A perfect expression of this, I think, is Dreadbox, and this is the Erebus. When I was watching all of the kind of demos and reviews of the Erebus and kind of deciding whether or not I wanted to pick one up and try one out, something that kept coming up was character, especially around the oscillators, and I'm going to have to echo that because the oscillators have a really distinct sound, which I never really understood before. I mean, oscillators to me kind of sound like the waves that they're making, but these actually have a character and a warmth and a heft to them, which is really, really amazing. I think we'll have a look-see actually. So here is oscillator 1. I'll show you oscillator 1 on its own, oscillator 2 on its own, and then we'll talk through the rest of the front panel. So I'll show you oscillator 1 here to start off with. We've got, let's show you the full range actually. So this is 3 footages up top, in the middle, and down below. Let's put that back in the middle for us, and we've got a saw wave, and a square wave down there as well. And then if we move this over to oscillator 2, we get our saw wave and a lovely triangle wave down there. And we have the same range as well. Lovely. We can mix those together. Lovely, and we can mix the different wave shapes there as well, obviously. Something really cool about the Erebus is this triple ring. So you can use kind of a ring modulator. You can ring mod the oscillators against each other. So we can do 1 against 2, or just bring that in. Or 1 against 3 over here. Or indeed both triple ring, which is super cool. I'll just take that off for a second. Oscillator 3 is its kind of own independent beastie. You've got obviously your own independent tune, as you see over here, but then we've got many more wave shapes, as you can see on the top-down camera up there. You have got a fine tune knob, which is super useful because this big tune knob, oscillator 3, goes from all the way down to these really low LFO rates, all the way down there, up into audio rate. So it's kind of an oscillator slash LFO, depending on how you choose to use it. Really cool. Because that knob has such a wide range in terms of pitch, I guess, you have got a fine tune knob there just to help you get things squared away. You've got a level knob. So obviously if you do only want to use it as an LFO, you can bring the level down, just use it as a modulation source. Or you've got FM over here if you want to get really crazy with stuff. So let's just see if it's in tune first. There we go. It can get quite domineering if you bring the level up. Then we have our different wave shapes. We'll just go through those quick. and we have FM there as well. If you want to get really nasty. We have an independent LFO over here as well, which goes from real slow to kind of fast. It doesn't go into like audio rates, it's not the fastest LFO in the world, but I do appreciate that it gets nice and slow. One of my issues that I have with the Polyvox is that the LFO goes really, really fast and not slow enough. Sometimes you just want a really, really slow moving modulation source just to kind of give texture and stuff, and that's great for that. So that's really appreciated and really cool. I'll switch that off. The filter down here is wide open at the moment. It does do low pass, high pass there at the top, and it's switchable, so you can actually get some band pass action in the middle there, should you so choose. I'll just show you I'll crank the resonance up, because it does resonate quite nicely. And we'll bring that cutoff down. I'll show you some high pass as well. It does get lovely and gritty in the middle there, and then we'll do some bump. Again, lovely and gritty down the bottom end there. I was a little bit disappointed, I suppose, by the filter on the Erebus. Lots of commentary when I was watching videos on the Erebus in preparation for seeing whether I wanted to pick one up or not, said that the filter was like a really interesting, really characterful, really cool filter, and it is cool, just not in the way that I would kind of like to use it. So, I mean, for example, if you have an MS-20 or an MS-20 Mini, if you have a Polyvox, even if you have something like a Moog DFAM, if you bring the cutoff all the way down on a low pass filter, so that kind of roll off is right in the low frequencies, like 100, 200 hertz, and then you crank that resonant peak, you get a big push in the low end and everything gets nice and fat. If I do that on the Erebus, even if I bring it down a couple of octaves, it just keeps whistling. It just doesn't quite seem to go as low as I would like it to, which is a little bit of a bummer. I quite like using that technique, especially on the MS-20, to get these big fat pumping basses that are really, really amazing, and something I'm particularly partial to. You have got a standard ADSR envelope just here that allows you to do all of your usual filter envelopey things. It does go so slow as to effectively kill the note. So that's cool. It does go very, very, very slow. We'll just bring that a tap back down, bring the sustain down so you get an idea of what the decay does. It is also loopable, and that loop, I believe, is set by the clock over here. So if you wanted to bring the clock rate up, for example, you could use that to set the really, really cool, and that does have an independent level there. Really, really cool. And then your standard amp stuff over here, again, ADSR. Really cool, and an independent level there. I have seen a couple of people saying if you do pick one of these up and it's not making any noise, it's because your amp level there is down, which I suppose does make sense. And then your final little kind of cube is your built-in, very kind of lo-fi sounding digital echo / delay type thing. So I think we'll bring some of that in. I really appreciate here the values of this knob, which is a weird sentence, but it's very easy to dial in. It's not like tempo locked or anything. Obviously you can with a clock if you kind of work like that, but if you're just recording into a DAW or something, it's very easy to line this up with kind of where you are. Let's bring it up a little bit. It will also self-oscillate if you allow it to. Really cool stuff. As I mentioned earlier, you have also got a built-in clock here with duty as well, and a rate knob and a nice handy LED to show you where you are, so you can use that to clock something like a DFAM or, you know, whatever other kind of Eurorack setup that you happen to be using. You've got a clock in and a clock out. There is also white noise. There's independent CV in for each of the 3 oscillators down here and gates, and then on the back you've got a MIDI in, a headphone out, and a standard output out on the back, and some dip switches over here so you can set which MIDI channel you're on. If you put dip switch 1 down, there is also kind of an auto tuning thing that happens when you switch on the Erebus to make sure that you are in relatively good stead there. Something that seems like a consistent kind of through line through all of the Dreadbox offerings that I've seen so far is this kind of addition of built-in effects, which I think is really cool. For example, the Erebus has an echo, which I think fits really nicely. The Nymphes has a digital reverb, which is an interesting choice because it's a 6-voice polysynth, which is something that a lot of people on YouTube have likened to something like a Juno 106 or something like that, even though they're not necessarily sonically similar, but they can kind of get into the same ballpark. From memory, I think the Nymphes is a little bit dirtier, but the addition of a digital reverb there is an interesting one because where it is quite Juno-y, it is a 6-voice polysynth. If you were going to put an effect in there, you would expect a chorus. And they went, nope, we're going to put a digital reverb in there. The Typhon, I think, has a few different digital effects built in there as well, which is much appreciated because it's teeny tiny and really portable. The Erebus with its echo down there is also something really, really cool. I really like the ability to patch it, which is much appreciated as well. Like, for example, something I did when I was messing around the other day, I believe I patched the gate into the echo. Because I had a lead going, so let's see if we can do a little bit of that actually while we're here. You have got independent glide actually, I think I forgot to mention that, but you have got independent glide for oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. It's just cool. It's just an interesting thing that I found. You get a kind of kick from the hit of the note with the CV gate opens into the echo, and you've also got that white noise that I mentioned there a second ago. So we can put that into the filter, and then it kind of goes into the filter in kind of the signal chain, so we can. Some really fabulous noises in there. I will be honest, I struggle, as much as I love the Erebus, I love the sound of the Erebus, I love the sound of the oscillators. The filter is pretty cool. It's not something I prefer over, say, the one in the Polyvox or the one in the MS-20, but It is a cool filter, nonetheless. There's a few little kind of tricks, like the one I mentioned earlier, that you can't do, which is a little bit frustrating, but it's a nice filter, nonetheless. I like how it gets really gritty when you bring that cutoff down and the resonance right up. I like the built-in echo, that's cool. I think if you're looking for like a more versatile echo, then you're definitely going to get more mileage out of external effects. But it is cool that it's there nonetheless. I think I'm struggling to get sounds out of it that I would use in my own music. I'll pop a link down in the description, not to push my own music, but just so you get an idea of what I'm trying to use it for. I make predominantly like dark ambient electronic kind of industrial-y type stuff, and I can't quite find sounds in here that I would kind of apply for that. Something that it does really excel at though, and something that I think explains the addition of the echo on the Erebus, is that it loves to pluck. The Erebus certainly does have some kind of lovely, filthy kind of stuff going on in it that I really, really like. I do like the filter, I just wish I could really kind of push that low end to get some basses out of it. I struggle to get big, like when I'm sequencing it with MIDI out of my DAW, I struggle to get kind of more fast moving basses out of it. I struggle to get the low end out of it that I really, really want. The oscillators have heft to them when you bring it down, but it would really, really be nice if that filter resonance just went a little bit lower, just to really bring out that low end. I want to really stress that the Erebus is brilliant. It's a really, really good sounding synthesizer. It's a really cool sounding synthesizer. It's a very unique architecture in terms of the amount of modulation sources, in terms of that triple ring with the ring mod. The filter can get quite dirty if you really want it to. My criticisms here are not of the Erebus, it's just the fact that it doesn't really fit into my kind of, my workflow, I suppose, or into the kind of vibe that I'm sort of after. So it is a really, really brilliant thing. Something where I think it would really, really shine is if you are the kind of person that will sit down and maybe with a reverb pedal and a sequencer and just sequence this thing through a reverb pedal and really leverage that built-in echo, leverage those plucky sounds and that big washy delay, something like a Big Sky or a Blue Sky or a like a Meris Mercury 7, Mercury X, or Rooms or whatever it is, whatever your reverb of choice. I think you could have tons of fun and make some really wonderful ambient stuff with this. I think it would be really, really great at that. Thank you so much for watching my video on the Erebus. Really, really appreciate you sticking around to the end. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the Erebus. I think it's a really, really fantastic thing. It just unfortunately isn't kind of sonically for me, but it probably will be sonically for you if you're watching this video, so it's definitely worth going and checking it out. I got mine for £300 on the second-hand market, which is crazy for what it is, for the build quality, for the sound, for pretty much everything about it, for the patch bay, for the built-in effects, and for the amount of modulation sources. I didn't even talk about using that envelope as an extra LFO, that loopable envelope as an extra LFO. You can do so many cool things with it. Totally worth checking out, especially at the price point. I think it's fair to say that it is super affordable. Thank you again so much for watching. We have got a community forum. I made a community forum so that we can all get super nerdy if the comments just aren't quite sufficing and you want to ask some questions. questions. There is a small but perfectly formed community over there coming together to talk about all things sound, audio, production, synthesis, guitar amps, pedals, Eurorack, and everything in between. So get over there and get nerdy. We would love to have you. I will see you in the next one.